The Chinese absolutely love anime, even if they don't like to admit it. Because of it, they have created a lot of anime-like games themselves. Another thing they like is the Resident Evil franchise. Well, maybe not so much, but it doesn't prevent them from creating their own Resident Evil game. And it's called The Killing Antidote. In this game you play Jodie, who is a journalist, and she finds herself in a not so funny situation. A disease has spread and is turning people into zombies, and her goal is to find out where the virus came from. And that's basically the story of The Killing Antidote. And that premise doesn't sound too groundbreaking, but it doesn't need to be. Zombie-esque games have been popular forever. Left 4 Dead 2, Dead Island, and the Resident Evil franchise, just to name a few. And The Killing Antidote is another title to these endless lists of games, and it most closely resembles the Resident Evil franchise. That being said, this game is developed by only 2 people, but it still manages to hold its ground as a game worth playing, at least with the content that's out so far in the playtest. So let's take a look at it. Immediately upon playing the game, you notice that a lot of work has gone into optimizing it. The character movement feels amazing, whether you're in combat or whether you are just walking around the map. You don't feel like you're being cheated on when you die, and that feels great. And not just that, this game probably has one of the best locomotion out of all games I've ever played. It's at least somewhere there at the top. And the most important quality that a game can have, well, in terms of replayability, is good gameplay. And the time spent on optimizing it has been a great decision. The game features a diverse set of zombies to keep the game interesting. Some zombies crawl, some vomit, and some run very quickly. You kind of know the drill and types at this point. Luckily, the developers gave you the tools to deal with all of them, especially at the hardcore difficulty level. You really need to use everything you can, because it's not an easy game. You can throw a knife, an axe, shoot them in the face, pierce them with your heels, electrocute, execute. Getting everything necessary can be a bit tricky. Many doors cannot be opened conventionally. You have to find out how to do it, because often they lead to gun rooms where you can stock up ammo and equip new guns. Some require you to solve puzzles. Others require explosives or very good eyesight for some reason. The amount of little details that you will find in a level is great to see. The levels aren't big either, so you can go back and clear what you may have missed. And you'd want to do that, because you won't discover everything on your first playthrough. The details aren't just in the level design itself. When you look at the clothing, it shatters when you get hurt. The game offers more than just a story. There are various other modes which include survival, time pass, extreme escape, and thematic modes, each of which are worth playing besides the story. One of the main attractions of the game is that it has many different clothing options. Some clothes are very modest, some a bit more revealing, and others are even more revealing. However, you have to collect the clothing yourself. A lot of them can be found in the story, but each level in other modes offers a unique full set of clothing. You'd have to play the level multiple times to get all the drops you need. This adds a bit of grinding to the game, not in a bad way. In the survival game mode, you get dropped on the map and you have to survive various waves of enemies. Weapons and ammo are located around the map, so you can continuously stock up. But there's a waiting time for every time you take ammo from the chest. You can level up during the run and receive buffs, or find new pieces of clothing to collect. Currently there are 3 survival maps: Testing Grounds, Centralized Control Area, and Desperate Weepers. I find them to be a bit lackluster. As it comes to the Testing Grounds, it's fine. It's called a testing ground for a reason. Centralized Control Area is a very open map. It's not bad, it has its own style, but it feels like a lazy map design. It's the most playable of the 3 though. At least in my opinion. Desperate Weepers is just a farm map for an achievement, which we will touch upon later. It's mostly just a single small room where Weepers spawn. This is the biggest negative of the game in my opinion. The survival maps aren't dynamic. They are nothing like the campaign map, and they shouldn't be like the campaign map, but they need to be a bit more dynamic. I wish there were more hallways or rooms. This is why Centralized Control Area is the best map. But even so, it's very static to play. There are also leaderboards as to how fast someone completes the survival. But to me, survival is more about how long someone can survive. Therefore, there should be a mode where there are infinite waves that get increasingly harder. until the player dies or decides to stop. The next game mode is Time Pass. Here the goal is to complete the level as quickly as possible. There's only one map released so far for this game mode. It's called Abandoned Hangar. The design of the map is much more dynamic. There are lots of buildings and rooms to play around. This map is quite large and there are a lot of enemies. In the playtest there are currently no maps for Extreme Escape, so I have no idea what the game mode is. We'll just have to find out when the game is released. The last game mode is the Thematic game mode. Currently there's only one map in the playtest and that's Nightmare Castle. You spawn in a castle like maze where you have to destroy multiple pumpkins. But as soon as you destroy the first pumpkin, the time starts ticking. After several pumpkins, the Reaper gets unleashed. You cannot kill it, you just have to run, and the Reaper will one-shot you, so it's somewhat distressing. After you destroyed all the pumpkins, the exit portal opens, which you will have to find as well. The maze is also filled with several traps, and they may slow you down enough for the Reaper to catch up to you. The alt modes in general gave me more difficulties as it comes to ammo management. However, leftover ammo gets stored in your storage box, which you can access while playing, meaning you can just take out all the ammo you have stored. This kind of takes away the charm and the difficulty of these modes, specifically the survival and time pass modes. This basically concludes the main content of the game. Of course, there are some smaller details worth mentioning. If a game wants to be popular, or at least playable, for large amounts of time, there has to be some merit to playing it. That's something the developers have the power to control. Currently, their main factors are collecting clothing and toys, which you can collect across various maps and gets placed onto your shelf. They're a good addition for completionists like me, especially since they aren't found at the quote-unquote easy places. Clothes are a bit easier to collect. They tend to be spread out across the map or are given as a reward for completing a level in any of the game modes or story. There's no difference in drops between the difficulty levels, which are easy, normal and hardcore. I understand that we'd like everyone to be able to collect and use the various clothing options in the game, but if this is the main replay value, there's absolutely no merit to play on any other mode than easy. There are no benefits to completing the game on hardcore and improve your skills. There is no reward for being good at the game. I consider this to be a huge flaw. Achievements are a form of reward for being good, but that's for your Steam account. If we talk about the game, there are no collectibles that you will get, or any mode that you can unlock for being good. Fixing this is a very simple and effective way to increase replay value and keep the player base longer. In terms of quality of life, there's one thing that has to be added before the release, and that is clothing presets. Such a feature should be considered essential, especially if the main side attraction of the game is collecting outfits. We don't want to look through our entire clothing collection just to switch everything out. Finding the right hairstyle and changing it into the right color is a pain. It's not a game breaker, but I don't consider this to be a could-have feature. This should be a should-have feature, especially because every time you complete chapter 1 of the story, you end up with just a towel. Some smaller things include more skillful achievements. Currently, half of the achievements are a chore because they aren't difficult. You just spend a huge amount of time grinding. Some achievements include kill 100 Weepers, which is why Desperate Weeper Survival is just a grinding level for an achievement. Execute 1000 enemies or get grabbed 300 times, and a few others. The game also includes skill-based achievements, which, honestly, it'd be better to have more of these, and less of the former. It also increases replay value for many of us as well. It'd be nice to also have special clothing rewards for certain challenges too. I also know that some achievements are bugged, like completing the story without taking damage, which is impossible as you always take fall damage at the end of the first chapter. I hope this gets fixed before the release. Other than that, the art for the achievements look great. I also want to make some miscellaneous comments. A small bug that may happen is that zombies can get pushed into walls after execution, and then they are stuck there forever. And when zombies despawn with my melee weapons in them, the weapons are just gone, and this is very annoying. A small bug where knives get thrown behind your character can get knives to disappear, or end up at the other side of the fence. Dice sometimes fall behind the drawers, which obstructs vision. Now you cannot open certain doors in the level. Halloween panties that are unobtainable because they just don't drop. Shortcut from the door to reach a reset button, which isn't really a bug, but more of a wallbang. I hope they leave it in because it's fun for speedrunners like me. Zombie sounds that don't have any range. What I mean is that however far away the zombies are, the sounds all seem to be equally as loud. Maybe I'm deaf, but I don't think there's any difference at all. This makes relying on sound cues not possible. A small addition I'd include is a difficulty level above hardcore called Nightmare. I found that various players find hardcore to become too easy after a couple of playthroughs. Another difficulty level might be nice to increase the replay value, though I understand the difficulty in optimizing it if it's so hard to complete. Before we end it, I want to talk about the future of the game. Currently there's only one chapter of the story. The full release will come with the entire story finished. Some other features, which are hinted at in Jodie's room, are also added, which I don't know what it will do. The big thing will be that they are planning to add mod support to the game, a Steam workshop. I am excited for it, but also afraid. Let's talk about the clothing first. I am excited because there will be endless customizations to try out and create. On the other hand, it can be misused to add clothing that should be part of something you grind in the game, but instead gets added in the Steam workshop, or at least a piece of clothing infinitely close to it. This diminishes the replay value that the game has or could get by adding special clothing by completing the game in hardcore, without dying, for example. I'm not sure if they will add modding for other parts of the game as well. I think it's important to do so. If we look at Left 4 Dead 2, the reason the game is doing so well for its age is that you can create your own levels, stories, etc. Resident Evil 4, for example, also has a big modding community. We need to be able to mod more than clothing. I understand that creating the tools for making your own level can be extremely difficult, or time consuming. But in today's world of gaming, I consider it to be essential for long-term success and the longevity of the game. Since the game is currently in playtest, I don't know what the full price will be once it is released. But considering Left 4 Dead 2 is about $10 and the Resident Evil games are about $40, I expect the Killing Antidote to fall somewhere within that range. The Killing Antidote is very optimized. That increases its value by a lot. And it would also be delusional to deny that sex appeal wouldn't increase the amount of money people are willing to pay for the game. But the thing that TKA falls short on compared to something like Left 4 Dead 2 is the replay value. The fact that Left 4 Dead 2 has many custom campaigns and mods means that there's so much replay value for so little money. I think TKA can really beat out Resident Evil if it puts a lot of effort to increase the game's modding capabilities. The longer you can keep your player base, the more money they will spend on DLCs and the base game in general. If I take the game's current state and the future full campaign into account, then I would expect a price tag of about $20, plus or minus 5. Anything above 30 would just be ridiculous, at least in my opinion. All in all, I think it's worth playing, and since there's a playtest going on right now, you can try it out for free. The link will be in the description. Ciao.